Welcome back, Patriots, for a Dark MAGA podcast where things get spicy, things get crazy, things get a little out of control every now and then. But we're streaming live on all platforms, on X, on YouTube, on Rumble, and it's open to the public, baby. Get ready, buckle up, because things are going to get wild. It always does. It gets a little bit spicy. Sometimes, as I mentioned, it gets out of control. So if you can't handle it, well, this is not the show for you, because it can go a little bit off the reservation. But that's okay. We need that every once in a while, which is why we do this twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, to bring you the wild and crazy. And, well, is there anything more wild and crazy than dealing with the news media? Because I don't think so. And that's exactly what we're going to step in today, is we're going to look at today's White House press briefing from the beautiful and the sane Caroline Leavitt. And it's still a remarkable thing that she is the White House press secretary after dealing with Karine Jean-Pierre for 4 years. Well, I guess 3 years-ish and some change, maybe 2.5 years if we're to really be on the nose with it. But thank you so much. Dark MAGA notification received. That's what I love to hear. Good to see all you Patriots in the chat. And, well, here we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. I apologize for my tardiness, but I came directly from the Oval. I have some newsy updates to share from the president, which I know you all very much value and appreciate. So let's get to it.
Here we go. Let's do it.
The president promised millions of Christians across the country on the campaign trail that he would create a White House faith office when he returned to the White House, and he has delivered on that promise. The White House Faith Office has put together an extraordinary week-long celebration currently underway for Holy Week ahead of Easter Sunday. The president signed a Holy Week proclamation, filmed a special presidential video message, and will be hosting a pre-Easter dinner tomorrow night and a White House staff Easter worship service on Thursday. The president and the First Lady are honored to continue the tradition of the White House Easter egg roll, which will take place on the South Lawn next Monday. In other news, President Trump is turning America into a manufacturing superpower again. Yesterday, there was a monumental announcement by Nvidia, one of the... We
covered this in the morning episode. That's why you always want to tune in to the Bald Brad Show, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's live, so you can either catch it live or catch the recording after, but we covered this bigly.
The largest companies in the world. This is just the latest example. For the first time ever, chip-making giant Nvidia will produce AI supercomputers entirely in the United States, as part of its pledge to produce $50 billion worth of AI infrastructure in our country over the next 4 years. With their manufacturing partners, they have commissioned more than 1 million square feet of manufacturing space to build and test Nvidia Blackwell chips in the great state of Arizona.
There we go.
And AI
and
supercomputers in the great state of Texas.
There you go.
Nvidia's founder and CEO Jensen Huang touted how the engines of the world's AI infrastructure are being built in the United States for the first time.
There we go.
This is the Trump effect. This follows trillions in other U.S. investments announced already, including $500 billion from Apple in U.S.-based manufacturing and training, $100 billion from TSMC and U.S.-based chips manufacturing, and the $500 billion private investment led by OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank in artificial intelligence infrastructure. Under President Trump, we're going to produce the cars, the ships, the chips, the airplanes, minerals, and medicines that we need right here in America at the hands of American workers. On the border, President Trump continues to break records and protect our homeland. According to CBP, Border Patrol apprehensions along the southwest border for the entire month of March 2025 were lower than the first 2 days of March 2024 under Joe Biden. Incredible law enforcement officers are arresting violent illegal aliens from American communities every day. Here are a few examples from the latest ICE report, which I received this morning. ICE Los Angeles arrested a 54-year-old citizen of Mexico convicted of rape by threat, sodomy with a person under 14 years, and kidnapping in San Jose, California. ICE Houston has arrested a 23-year-old citizen of Mexico convicted of predatory criminal sexual assault of a child in Cook County, Illinois. ICE Houston arrested a 64-year-old citizen of Honduras convicted of murder in Los Angeles County, California.
That crackling's not me, by the way.
Yeah. ICE Chicago arrested a 49-year-old citizen of Guatemala convicted of assault and arson in Prince Williams, Virginia, not far from here. ICE Denver arrested a 36-year-old citizen of Mexico who is registered as a sex offender and has been convicted of sexual assault of a child in Lake County, Colorado. ICE Baltimore arrested a 50-year-old citizen of China convicted of sex trafficking in Bel Air, Maryland. And ICE
just want to point out, Democrats want all these people to stay, folks. We've been saying it since the inception of the show. 4 years we've been saying that Democrats love this stuff. This is who they want in their communities, in your communities, by the way. Their actions speak volumes.
Boston arrested a 46-year-old citizen of Jamaica convicted of 3 counts of rape of a child and 2 counts of indecent assault and battery of a child under 14 in Boston, Massachusetts. President Trump and our administration will not rest until every single violent illegal alien is removed from our country. The safety of the American people is too important to settle for anything less. On that note, the Democrat and media outrage over the deportation of Abrego Garcia, an MS-13 El Salvadorian illegal alien criminal who is hiding in Maryland, has been nothing short of despicable. Based on the sensationalism of many of the people in this room, you would think we deported a candidate for Father of the Year. That's because, unfortunately, many in this country care more about this quote-unquote Maryland father, a legal alien MS-13 gang member, than a Maryland mother and an American citizen who was brutally murdered at the hands of a different illegal alien. Of course, I am referring to Rachel Morin. And if you didn't see yesterday, a Maryland jury found illegal alien Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez guilty of murdering Rachel Morin in August of 2023.
Jeez.
She was a 37-year-old mother of 5 who was jogging in an otherwise safe community northeast of Baltimore when this monster ambushed, strangled, and beat her to death before stuffing her brutalized body in a tunnel drain.
Jeez.
The Morin family finally got justice yesterday, but they will never get Rachel back. Our hearts go out to Rachel's family, her 5 children, and her mother, Patty, who has suffered the unimaginable loss of her daughter. In case you missed it last week, President Trump signed a national security presidential memorandum directing federal agencies administering federal land on the border to make land available to the Defense Department in a new national defense area.
This is big.
This followed the president's day 1 executive order committing his administration to marshal all available resources and authorities to stop the unprecedented flood of illegal aliens into our country and to obtain complete operational control of the borders of the United States of America.
Big news!
Once again, the president is fulfilling another key promise. This new national defense area spans more than 170 miles across our border in New Mexico. But in the coming weeks, this administration will add more than 90 miles in the state of Texas. This national defense area will enhance our ability to detect, interdict, and prosecute the illegal aliens, criminal gangs, and terrorists who were able to invade our country without consequence for the past 4 years under the Biden administration.
Damn right,
It
Carolyn.
will also bolster our defenses against fentanyl and other dangerous narcotics that have been poisoning our communities. With all of this work being done to make America great again, we continue to see a positive response from the American public. A brand new poll published from the Daily Mail and JL Partners this morning found that President Trump's approval rating is at an all-time high.
54%. By the way, April 14th, this is with the tariffs, folks. This is with the drop in the stock market. This is what the American people wanted. And the media can't grasp their head around it. They can't wrap their head around it. Folks, you got to understand, they don't know what to do. The Democrats have never had this low of an approval rating. Let me see if I can find this really quick. They were spazzing out because of the shift of those that are not in favor of the Democrat Party anymore. Democrat poll. There was a video that came out, and the poll numbers are just terrible for the Democrat Party. Look at this.
This, to me, is one of the most shocking pieces of
Watch
poll data
this.
that I truthfully have seen this year, or maybe in any prior year.
Really?
Yes, really, because I want you to take a look. Cares more about the needs for people like you. You mentioned the Cape Ball. We got a tie, even after this tariff war had already started, split between Democrats and Republicans on how people feel which party cares more for needs of people like you. And why is that so surprising? Because I want you to take a look at prior years. Democrats always lead on this question. Back in 2017, before the...
We know this guy all too well. This is the guy that's super energetic. Also, for some reason, last time had a New York accent and was going back and forth between not having an accent and having an accent. And here he doesn't have one. We all thought it was really weird. If you look at this, in 20 years, they've lost 23%, folks. 23 points, man. Even a 13% drop since 2017. They're tied now. For those that care more for needs of people like you. Whoa. Democrats are falling apart.
2018 midterms, 13-point lead. 2005, a 23-point lead for Democrats. 1994, which was a big Republican year, a 19-point lead for Democrats. And now, all of a sudden, a tie? All of a sudden, the Democrats, who are the party of the people, no more. We get a tie on this question, on a question that has traditionally overwhelmingly been a Democratic advantage. Which party cares more for the needs of people like you? It's truly something I would not have expected to see, especially after this tariff war had begun.
And it's crazy because his numbers are just getting better. And they don't know what to do. They don't know how to make sense of that. Like, but he's ruining everything. How is it possible? Well, because you Democrats suck at everything, and you allow Joey to really cripple this country and allow a bunch of illegals in here and foreign wars happening because Joey was a weak dullard in the White House and didn't have a clue. We don't need to rehash that all out once again. But his numbers are just, they dipped a little bit. Yeah, as you will. You expect that. Even if they were in the 40%, he's still killing it.
That's because the president is working tirelessly to keep his promises to the American people, as
That's
I
right.
just saw him doing today in the Oval Office. We have a reporter in our new media seat today, Matthew Foldy. I like your boots, Matt, who is the editor-in-chief of the Washington Reporter. Washington Reporter is a new, fast-growing outlet that breaks stories about legislation and interviews leaders in Congress and across the administration. The publication's readership includes the highest levels of business and government. And with that, please kick us off, Matt.
Here we go.
And we've interviewed you as well. So, Caroline,
That's
thanks
right.
so much for having me here on behalf of our readership and the millions of Americans who I think appreciate what you're doing with the new media seat here and making this a more accessible briefing room. I'm curious with Harvard. We saw the Trump administration today announce it's cutting around $2 billion, or freezing $2 billion in funds to Harvard because the campus has serious problems with violence and with anti-Semitism. We saw former President Obama, side with Harvard, which rejected the Trump administration's demands. I'm curious, where does the administration see this going with Harvard and with other colleges and universities in America that are refusing to reform in wake of the sort of craziness that we've seen take over some of them?
Thank you, Matt, for being here, and thanks for the question. When it comes to Harvard, the president's position on this is grounded in common sense. In the basic principle that Jewish American students, or students of any faith, should not be illegally harassed and targeted on our nation's college campuses. And we unfortunately saw that illegal discrimination take place on the campus of Harvard. There are countless examples to prove it, particularly with the stunning confession by then Harvard President Claudine Gay, who said that bullying and harassment depended on the context.
I remember that, and it blew my mind. She said it in front of a congressional hearing. It just depends on context. It's also Claudine Gray that plagiarized a bunch of stuff. But don't worry, the former president of Harvard can't write a simple message, book. No, I don't care what the hell it is. She can't do it.
The president at that time made it clear to the American public he was not going to tolerate illegal harassment and anti-Semitism taking place in violations of federal law. So the president made it clear to Harvard, follow federal law, no longer break Title VI, which was passed by Congress to ensure no student can be discriminated against on the basis of race, and you will receive federal funding. Unfortunately, Harvard has not taken the president or the administration's demands seriously. All the president is asking, don't break federal law, and then you can have your federal funding. I think the president is also begging a good question. More than $2 billion out the door to Harvard when they have a more than $50 billion endowment. Why are the American taxpayers subsidizing a university that has billions of dollars in the bank already?
Thank you.
And we certainly should not be funding a place where such grave anti-Semitism exists.
I'm curious, you would just mention
It's almost like that's exactly what we were saying this morning.
Rachel Morin, and I'm a Maryland man, and I think most Marylanders appreciate what you were saying today. We've seen that Chris Van Hollen, who was Rachel Morin's senator, basically threatening to fly to El Salvador to press for the release of someone who was in America illegally. And not as much sort of from him about Rachel Morin's horrific murder
of course
and the
not.
verdict that was, I think, rightly reached yesterday.
Why would he push that? It's against the Democrats' narrative. An illegal immigrant murdering a beautiful young woman that had her whole life ahead of her. Why on God's green earth would the media and the Democrat Party ever push that story? It goes completely against what they believe, because they believe illegal immigrants should be here. They're all great people. They all love this country and they love Americans and they just want to assimilate into our creed and a value system, which we know they don't. Time and time again, you've seen it throughout history. People that come into somebody else's country illegally and don't want to assimilate, that's a country that gets destroyed from the inside out. It's almost as if we wrote a book about something very similar to that analogy. It's almost like a guy with a bald head that hosts a podcast every morning wrote an entire book called Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America, utilizing the analogy of a Trojan horse built in the form of ideology that the left have puppeted up in the United States of America, and it's destroying our country from the inside out. You get your copy on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Sometimes Walmart will have a copy. That's right, Trojan Horse. It goes against their narrative.
What does the administration think about the priorities we're seeing from Senate Democrats in terms of illegal immigrants instead of the work that agencies like ICE and DHS are doing with the Trump administration?
It's mind-boggling, the priorities of the modern-day Democrat Party. I think it's...
And the media, call out the media, Caroline. They're sitting right in front of you. It's the same people in that room.
Atrocious that you have Democrats in Congress on Capitol Hill who swear an oath to protect their constituents and to serve them in Washington, D.C., spending more time defending illegal immigrant gang members than their own constituents and law-abiding American citizens like Rachel Morin. And I saw the president personally on the campaign trail, and I continue to see him in his role as president of the United States, put American families first, reach out to the victims, the families of victims at the hands of illegal immigrant crime. And frankly, the actions and the words of the Democrat Party prove they could not care less about the American public. And maybe if they did, they'd see a bit higher approval ratings right now. Thanks for being here with us today. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline.
Here we go, folks. The man, the legend. Peter Doocy, the gladiator of Fox News. Let's see what the man has in store. The last time we heard from Peter Doocy, a bird landed on his head.
To follow up on something that you just said, why do Ivy League schools get so much federal funding?
Thank you, Peter. That's why he's one of the best, baby. That was our question. If you want to be a private company, private business, stop asking for my taxpayer dollars. That goes against the grain of what is an American value. We're not anti-Semites in this country. We're not racist. We're not bigots. We don't like any of that crap. And by the way, I don't like people protesting illegally. That's not a good thing either. Peter, well done, sir. And also there's our boy, Philip Wegman. Shout out to Phil.
It's a very good question, and it's a question the president has obviously raised in his discussions and negotiations with not just Harvard, but also Columbia and many other Ivy League institutions. We have the Anti-Semitism Task Force, which the president promised and delivered on. The Anti-Semitism Task Force is across the government, representatives from various federal agencies who meet on a weekly basis to discuss the question that you just raised. And I think a lot of Americans are wondering why their tax dollars are going to these universities when they are not only indoctrinating our nation's students, but also allowing such egregious illegal behavior to occur.
To follow up on
We're all taxpayers. We're all average Joe Americans. I'm lumped in with you. I'm no different than the fellow patriots in the chat here. This is how we all felt this morning. We were saying the exact same thing. Why are we paying billions of dollars to institutions, tens of billions of dollars to institutions that want to go after Jews? It's a weird thing, and it's not right, and it's wrong. If you just made it about black people, I would be against it as well. And by the way, you would hope the Democrats would be, but oh wait, they're the ones that went against civil rights. Oh, my bad. Sorry. Oopsie.
Immigration. Deporting American citizens to Central American prisons. Is it legal, or do you need to change the law to do it?
Well, it's another question that the president has raised. It's a legal question that the president is looking into. And he talked about this yesterday when with his meeting with President Bukele in the Oval Office. He would only consider this, if legal, for Americans who are the most violent, egregious, repeat offenders of crime who nobody in this room wants living in their communities.
And then there's this.
I've said this. I actually have no qualms with American citizens being deported, of which she's referring to. You're talking about serial killers, those that are in there for life. They're not coming out 120 life sentences. Hell, I don't know. Go over to El Salvador for cheap. Pennies on the dollar. Where we're saving money left and right. We wouldn't know what to do with all the money we're saving. We'll be splashing it. We'll be like Donald Trump's pool full of money. Scrooge McDuck. I have no qualms sending a violent a-hole that murdered a bunch of people to El Salvador. I got no qualms with that one bit. I don't care if they're freaking Americans or not. People get all up in arms when you say that. Okay. Well, then you pay for it then. How about that? The guy can either be here in the United States through a prison, or we could send him south, get a discount on it, and he's still in prison. And by the way, if he had to, for some ungodly reason, come back, then he can come back.
CHNV thing.
Why do we act so dumb? Like, why? You guys notice that? Why do we act so stupid all the time? Oh, well, the deporting, we're sending him to another. It'd be no different if we sent like an American to Gitmo that killed a bunch of people. Like the BTK killer, or whatever the hell that guy's name was, that killed a bunch of women. Or like that one white guy that killed a bunch of people. What is his name? It starts with a D. I can't remember. I don't know serial killers' names, but you know what I'm talking about. No big deal. Send them there. When did we start advocating to allow the most evil people in the world? You forfeit a lot, okay? When you start murdering a bunch of people, you just forfeit everything, basically, in my mind. You shouldn't even be alive.
President Biden let more than 530,000 people from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela into the U.S. with this CHNV program. He did it with the stroke of a pen. And now a judge will not let President Trump undo it with the stroke of a pen.
Great point, Peter.
Are you guys going to give all
Jeffrey Dahmer. There you go.
530,000 plus people individual deportation hearings, or are you just going to try to deport them?
I spoke to White House counsel's office about this morning, because obviously another rogue district court judge is trying to block the administration's mass deportation efforts with this latest injunction. We will fight this in the court of law, and we will ensure that every individual who illegally entered our country and was really taken advantage of by the previous administration because they abused the parole system in this country to fast track legal status, as they said, for these illegal immigrants. And they completely abused our legal system. Many of these paroled individuals were then given temporary protective status, which the intention of that TPS was only supposed to be used in times of war or storm or destruction in the home countries of these migrants. It was completely abused. These migrants came here for economic reasons, and they illegally entered our country, and the president is not going to tolerate that. And so we will continue to focus on deporting as many individuals as we can. Jennifer.
Not enough in my mind. You're still not doing enough, but I'll take what I can get.
One on tariffs and one on Russia. Can you give us any sort of an update on which deals are in hand or are close? Which countries are reaching a deal on tariffs? And then on Russia, can you give us an update on what the agreement was with Russia? The president yesterday said that he thinks we'll be seeing some very good deals very soon. Can you talk a little bit about what Russia agreed to?
Sure. I don't want to get ahead of our United States Trade Ambassador and Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Treasury, all the great individuals who are working incredibly hard to cut these good trade deals. And the president's deeply involved in this as well. He has made it clear to his trade team he wants to personally sign off on all of these deals too. And so I don't want to get ahead of them on announcements. But obviously, as you've heard from numerous administration officials, there have been many talks with countries. We've had more than 15 deals, pieces of paper put on the table, proposals that are actively being considered. And as we've said consistently, more than 75 countries have reached out. So there's a lot of work to do. We very much understand that, but we do believe that we can announce some deals very soon.
And then on Russia, can you say, did Russia agree to anything with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff?
I don't want to get ahead of those negotiations as well. What I can tell you is that they were a productive conversation was had. As the presidential envoy Steve Witkoff said last night, he believes that Russia wants to end this war, and the president believes that as well. There is incentive for Russia to end this war, and perhaps that could be economic partnerships with the United States, but we need to see a ceasefire first, and the president and the presidential envoy Witkoff made that very clear to the Russians. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. And
Yeah.
I also want to thank your press office for releasing that information that you cited up there regarding the ICE arrests over the last couple of days. And I have them right here, but what I might ask is, why not release the same information for those who were deported to El Salvador?
Well, first of all, the information was released by the Department of Homeland Security. The individuals on the flights to El Salvador are foreign terrorists, and those are counterterrorism operations. They are much different than the arrests and final order of removals that you see on a day-to-day basis that law enforcement agents are conducting around the country.
That's a very good answer. I got to give her that one. See, it's almost like she was prepared for that type of question. Nice job. Good answer.
That information was not, to that detail, was not released by DHS, though.
I just told you the reason. It was a counterterrorism operation, a deportation of foreign terrorists, not illegal criminals who have been convicted of heinous crimes living in our American communities. It's two different things. Foreign terrorist, illegal immigrant criminal, two different things, two different definitions. You should look them up. Christian.
Yeah! Oh, talk down to him. I love it. Talk down to him like he's an idiot, because he is. Two different things, two different definitions. You should look them up. She doesn't like him, man. Oh, I don't like him either.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. Does the president support raising the corporate tax rate to pay for all these other tax cuts he wants to see move through Congress?
No.
Look, I've seen this idea proposed. I've heard this idea discussed, but I don't believe the president has made a determination on whether he supports it or not.
And then secondly, do you have any information on the status of Eden Alexander? Hamas says they lost contact with the unit guarding him following an Israeli airstrike earlier today.
I don't have updates. I
The
have not seen that
goofy-looking
report,
guy.
but I can certainly check in with our National Security Council. I have spoken to the president about Eden Alexander, and he's made it very clear to our national security team that finding him is a priority, but unfortunately I don't have any updates to share. But it's a very important matter, and certainly we can check in. Sure.
Hi. How concerned is the president that a federal judge?
Hello. I don't know why I found that so funny. Hi.
Could hold
Sorry, let's go back.
Matter, and certainly we can check
I
in.
apologize.
Sure.
Hi. How concerned is the president that a federal judge could hold a Trump administration official in contempt of court for defying deportation orders?
We are complying with all court orders. So I see what you're trying to do there with that question, but we're very confident that every action taken by this administration is within the confines of the law, and we continue to comply with the court's orders. And you have seen that, and the president made that clear yesterday in the Oval Office with President Bukele. Sure.
Oh, okay, so it's Bukele. I'm calling him Bukele. I'm an idiot. Woo.
Thanks, Caroline. Could you, just going back to El Salvador, could you just explain to us a little bit more about the legal basis on which you may be able to send US citizens to prison there? I know you said President Trump is looking at it, but can you explain to us a little bit more about how that might be possible?
We're looking at it, and when I have more for you to share, I certainly will. Sure.
Still going off the El Salvador questions, yesterday in the Oval Office, administration officials made it very clear that El Salvador is responsible for Mr. Abrego Garcia, yet El Salvador's president said we're not going to do anything with him. So my question is, who is responsible for this man and where he's going to end up?
Well,
El Salvador, because he's an El Salvadorian citizen. So that would be where the responsibility is at.
no. First of all, President Bukele said that he is not going to smuggle a foreign terrorist back into the United States of America, as many in this room in the Democrat Party seemingly want him to do.
It's crazy.
Abrego Garcia was a foreign terrorist. He is an MS-13 gang member. He was engaged in human trafficking. He illegally came into our country. And so deporting him back to El Salvador was always going to be the end result. There is never going to be a world in which this is an individual who's going to live a peaceful life in Maryland, because he is a foreign terrorist and a MS-13 gang member. Not only have we confirmed that, President Bukele yesterday in the Oval Office confirmed that as well. So he went back to his home country, where he will face consequences for his gang affiliation and his engagement in human trafficking. I'm not sure what is so difficult about this for everyone in the media to understand, and it's appalling, truly appalling, that there has been so much time covering this alleged
and everybody else, the
human
victims,
trafficker and this gang member, MS-13 gang member.
Give it to me.
It's truly striking to me. Karen.
That's not for me. I live in a Democrat state, Caroline. I live amongst the lefties. They're crazy. I live here. I see them. It's like a zombie apocalypse in the state of California. How Patriots, you're with me all the time, baby. You're with me all the time. How many times have we talked about since the inception of this show that they lop up the crime? They love the sex trafficking. They love the drug trafficking. They love the fentanyl killing thousands of Americans, hundred thousands of Americans. They give them needles to do drugs in the streets. They give them alcohol so they're not impacting the emergency rooms. This is not my thinking. This is not even my reporting. This is coming from California themselves in my state. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've lived it. I've witnessed it. I've read about it. Hello, Democrats. Vote differently if you want me to give you a different answer. Hello.
The president was posting on Truth Social today about helping American farmers. And last week in his cabinet meeting, he was talking about a plan to work with farmers to retain workers who are in the U.S. illegally, provided that they leave and then come back through what he said would be a legal process. Can you give details on what that would look like? How many workers he's talking about? How long a plan like that would take to implement, and the timeline for more details on getting this actually to implementation?
Look, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, you know? I want to be a perky guy, a positive Nancy, positive Penny, whatever you call them. I guess it's negative Nancy. This is all, you could just flesh this out yourself. You could go talk to other people and find answers to this. Why are you well, can you give us the details of how something like this would actually evolve and unravel?
I can check in with our immigration and our policy team and get you some more details on that, Karen.
Well, why didn't Karen do that, Caroline? Why didn't Karen do that? It would be one thing if she said, you know, I did reach out and they actually dodged my request and didn't give me an answer at all, so that's why I'm going to you. That would actually make sense to me, why you're wasting your time here. But I'm not hearing that.
Or is this something he wants to roll out soon? I mean, he was talking back and forth with Secretary Rollins.
Right.
This is kind of imminent that he wants to do this.
Yeah, look, the president is in constant communication with all of his cabinet secretaries, particularly Secretary Rollins, who has the backs of American farmers and ranchers. It's something that he spoke about with her in the front of all the cameras in the cabinet room, but I'll check in with not only our immigration team, but also with USDA, and we'll get you an answer. Jonathan.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi, it's good to see you in here.
You too. The president has long said that it would be an abuse of power for a president to direct prosecutors to investigate him. Last week, President Trump explicitly directed the Justice Department to scrutinize Chris Krebs to see if it can find any evidence of criminal wrongdoing. How is that not an abuse of power to direct the Justice Department to look into an individual, a named individual?
Look, the president signed that executive order. It's the position of the president in this White House that it's well within his authority to do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have signed it. And he signed it, and that's his policy. Jeff, how you doing?
Fine, thanks, Caroline. A follow-up on Harvard. The president floated on Truth Social, I believe, the possibility of removing tax-exempt status. How serious is that threat, and are there other universities he's considering? And then a follow-up question on foreign policy. What are your Can you give us an update on what the president hopes to come from the next round of talks with Iran?
Sure. First, when it comes to Harvard, as I said, the president has been quite clear they must follow federal law. He also wants to see Harvard apologize, and Harvard should apologize for the egregious anti-Semitism that took place on their college campus against Jewish American students. There were professors who said that he had engaged in discriminatory behavior against Jewish students. Of course, you had the former president of the university saying bullying and harassment depends on the context. You also had an encampment on Harvard Yard that we all saw play out before the cameras. The university failed to impose formal discipline on any students for this anti-Semitic conduct violations, including the occupation of a campus building and the disruption of classes with bullhorns. The president believes Harvard should apologize to its Jewish American students for allowing such egregious behavior. As for the tax-exempt status, I would defer you to the IRS for any updates. I do want to...
Why would they apologize? They love this stuff. What do you mean? Why on God's green earth would they apologize for this? They're not even... They're willing to lose $9 billion. They're like, nope, we would rather have anti-Semitic protests and anti-Semitism go on our campus than receive $9 billion. That's how important. It's $9 billion important to them, these college campuses. If you send your kid to the Ivy Leagues, you're just not, one, you're wasting your money. And two, they ain't learning anything other than being indoctrinated. What a waste of money.
Answer your question on Iran. Of course, the maximum pressure campaign on Iran continues. But as you know, the president has made it clear he wants to see dialogue and discussion with Iran while making his directive about Iran never being able to obtain a nuclear weapon quite clear. And the president spoke to the Sultan of Oman today, who helped facilitate these talks. I have a readout for all of you.
Oh, here we go.
He held a call with the Sultan of Oman today, and he thanked him for hosting the first direct meeting between the United States and Iran and emphasized the need for Iran to end its nuclear program through negotiations. The two leaders also discussed the United States' ongoing operations against the Houthis and emphasized that the Houthis will pay a severe price until they end their attacks on maritime traffic in the Red Sea. As you know, an additional negotiation between Steve Witkoff and Iran's representative has been scheduled for Saturday. And since these are ongoing negotiations, I have nothing more to add on that.
Can I come on Iran?
Sure.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. When you said that the president said that Iran will never have nuclear weapon, is the focus on dismantling the entire nuclear program, or it just restricting enriched uranium or the missile program?
All the above.
The president does not want to see Iran have a nuclear program. He does not want Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. He's been very clear about this. Shelby. Shelby, you have a seat today.
I know. Stole it.
Glad to see it.
Two quick ones on TikTok. First, is the president expecting to extend the TikTok ban that's now June 19th if China doesn't come to the table in time?
Well, June 19th is a long ways away, obviously. I think it's 2 months away. 2 months is a long time in the Trump administration, as you have all seen. We work at Trump speed around here. We get a lot done, so definitely don't want to get ahead. The vice president continues to lead these negotiations and talks. The president's involved, and they're ongoing.
And then the president previously said he'd consider reducing tariffs on China in order to get a TikTok deal done. Is that option still on the table?
Look, the president has made his position on China quite clear, although I do have an additional statement that he just shared with me in the Oval Office.
Here we go.
The ball is in China's court. China needs to make a deal with us. We don't have to make a deal with them. There's no difference between China and any other country except they are much larger. And China wants what we have, what every country wants, what we have, the American consumer. Or to put it another way, they need our money.
There you
go.
So
the president, again.
It's like I know what I'm talking about here. There's no country on earth that can buy the amount of crap that we buy. We don't need half the stuff that we purchase. We're just mega consumers here. You don't need 50 pair of Nikes on your wall and that you're going to look at them. Now, do you have the right to buy it? Absolutely. It's your money. I'm not telling you not to buy it. But we buy so much meaningless crap, and that, you want to know how much crap we buy? I'm coming back to this. People take out storage units to store stuff that they don't have room for in their house. They have garage full of crap. Rooms full of crap that they don't ever use. They go in 20 years later. Oh, look at that. I didn't know I had that. Then why was it there in the first place? It sat there for 20 years. You're not going to use it. Sell it. If you need it in the future, then buy it. If you were able to buy all this crap, then you have enough money to buy something else in the future. If you drove yourself into debt with all this crap, then you got problems. It's true. Everything I'm saying is right. And if you're one of those patriots that has rooms full of crap, clean it. Clean it. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
He's made it quite clear that he's open to a deal with China, but China needs to make a deal with the United States of America. Sure.
On tariffs, yesterday in the Oval Office...
Which outlet are you with?
The Canadian Public Broadcaster.
Oh. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, here we go. We got the Canadians in the house. All right.
Yesterday in the Oval Office, President Trump suggested that there could be some help for automakers. I'm wondering what that looks like. Is it tariff relief on the 25% tariffs that are in place right now, or the new tariffs that are coming up in May on auto parts? And a second on Canada, if I may. President Trump's tone when it comes to Canada-U.S. relations, Canadians have noticed it's shifted a bit in the past few weeks. Ever since the election campaign started, he stopped talking about Canada becoming the 51st state, at least publicly. I'm wondering if that's on purpose and why.
I would reject the president's position on Canada has shifted. Perhaps he just hasn't been asked about Canada by questions from this group in the Oval Office when they see him almost every day, but the president still maintains his position on Canada. The United States has been subsidizing Canada's national defense, and he believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. As for autos and auto parts, I don't have anything to read out for you.
I'll be honest, I don't want them. I don't want them. They're too left for me. Folks, they're about to put up another lefty. I don't want another leftist state. I'm good. Keep them up there. Don't bother coming here. I'm okay. And you know what? You don't have to bother me going up there. I've been to Canada. I played hockey in Calgary. I'm good. I've traveled across Canada playing ice hockey. I'm good. No, there ain't nothing there for me.
There, but I think the point the president was making is flexibility, and he has flexibility when it comes to negotiations and talks, but ultimately his goal in his fair trade deals that he is pursuing with many countries around the world is to put the American worker first. And we had automakers and auto workers here at the White House on Liberation Day who believe in this president and his negotiating ability to put them first and to bring those jobs back to the United States of America, and the president's been very clear about that in his conversations with the automakers as well. Deanna, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. One on Ukraine and one on China. On Ukraine, this past weekend, Zelensky offered an invitation to President Trump, extending an offer for him to visit Ukraine. Just wondering if there's any update on that. Has Trump seen that offer and what he's thinking about?
I don't know. Actually, I haven't talked to the president about that, or if he saw Zelensky's offer. I'm sure he did. I haven't spoken to him about it. I can ask him what he thinks. I certainly don't have any plans to share on a potential trip to Ukraine, though.
And then on China, this last week, Chinese officials were posting videos on, social media sites depicting a Trump, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk in AI-generated videos working in factories. Putting together Nike shoes and iPhones and products.
Really, look, she actually asked some good questions in the past. You're really going to waste these other reporters' opportunity to get a question on this stupid AI stuff? Really? Is this where we're at? Oh my God. Look, like I said, she's asked some good questions in the past. This is dumb.
Like that. Does the White House, have they seen these videos? Do you guys have a response to that?
I have seen the videos. I'm not sure who made the videos or if we can verify the authenticity, but whoever made it clearly does not see the potential of the American worker, the American workforce. The president believes in the American people, and he knows that we have the best not only consumer base in the world, but also the best workforce in the world, and that's why he's so focused on bringing investments home and shoring up our critical supply.
Don't waste your time with this, please. Can we get to something else with a better question?
Supply chains and bolstering our manufacturing here as well. Brett.
Thanks, Caroline. Would the president support a ban on members of Congress trading stocks?
I'm certain that's something the president would be interested in looking at, and I can ask him if he would support such a bill. Sure. Yes.
I have a question about the president's post from this morning on farmers. He asked farmers to be patient and just hold on. But a lot of farmers that I've talked to in the last week or so have said, they're in the middle of spring planting season and that a trade war makes everything sort of up in the air. What would his message to them be? And also, is there anything specifically planned to provide relief like in President Trump's last term?
Yes, well, relief is being considered. The Secretary of Agriculture, I know, has spoken to the president about that, and again, it's being considered. And as for the president's message to the farmers, he put it out himself. He could speak for himself much better than I can speak for him, and so I would just direct you to the statement he had telling the farmers again and reiterating his support for them and that he has their backs, which he certainly does. Kelly, in the back.
Thanks, Caroline. 2 questions. The first one, a Georgia man was just arrested over alleged threats to kill Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Reportedly, there is now increased security around the FBI deputy director. Can you talk about the level of threats against various...
Isn't the FBI deputy director, isn't that Dan Bongino?
...administration officials, and then a second one on Biden?
I'm sorry to hear that. I had not seen that report. It's very unfortunately, and obviously the White House, the president, and the entire administration condemn any threats of violence against any administration officials or public officials on both sides of the aisle here in Washington, D.C. It shouldn't be tolerated, and we commend the local law enforcement agencies for arresting this individual.
Former President Biden, he's set to deliver his first major speech since leaving office tonight. He plans to talk about what...
Dude, if we're streaming, we're watching that. I gotta watch Biden slur through his words. It's been too long, man. I miss the content. I don't miss the guy in office. What time? I'm gonna find out what time that dude's going live. Give me the content, Joe.
I'm told will be Social Security under the current administration, closing of offices, longer wait times, harder for seniors and people with disabilities to access earned benefits, is what Democrats have been saying today. I wanted to get the president's response, or if he plans to respond to this, and comments on what Democrats are calling cuts to Social Security.
My first reaction when seeing former President Biden was speaking tonight was, I'm shocked that he is speaking at nighttime. I thought his bedtime was much earlier than his speech tonight. I understand the topic of his speech will be Social Security. Let me make it very clear ahead of former President Biden's remarks. President Trump, is absolutely certain about protecting Social Security benefits for law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens and seniors who have paid into this program. He will always protect that program. He campaigned on it, he protected it in his first term, and he's back again to continue protecting it. On the topic of Social Security, I have some news before I let you all go. Later this afternoon, the president will be signing a presidential memorandum aimed at stopping illegal aliens and other ineligible people from obtaining Social Security Act benefits. The memorandum will direct the administration to ensure ineligible aliens are not receiving funds from the Social Security Act programs. It will expand the Social Security Administration's fraud prosecutor program to at least 50 U.S. attorney offices and establishes a Medicare and Medicaid fraud prosecution program in 15 U.S. attorney offices. The memorandum will also require the Social Security Administration Inspector General to investigate earning reports for individuals aged 100 or older with mismatched Social Security records to combat identity theft. And the memorandum will direct the Social Security Administration to consider whether to reinstate the use of civil monetary penalties against individuals who engage in Social Security fraud, an effort that has been paused for several years. These taxpayer-funded benefits should be only for eligible taxpayers. And President Biden should think about what he did in his last term, which is allow tens of millions of illegal people into our country, many of whom were fraudulently receiving these benefits. So you'll hear from the president on that later, and we will see you later in the East Room. Bye, guys.
Okay. Well, I would like for her to do longer press briefings. The 30-minute thing is, if you have so much good news, you got to get it out to the American people. And I would like her to kind of take a little bit more time with that. But speaking of time, we got Joe Biden. I guess Joe Biden is back. He crawled out of his crypt. They had the massage, a full body massage to get the rigor mortis out. But here he is. This is not AI. This is Joe himself. And well, he can only stand for 30 minutes. And I'm not exaggerating. That's how long this clip is going to be, 30 minutes. Joe, you old fogey, where you at? got the Beacon of Hope Award. For what? Oh God. Oh, Brad, stop it. We're 2 seconds in. God, he's looking frail, dude. That is a skinny suit. Oh boy.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So good to get here, though. Leaving that this idea is.
What the hell's going on here with the music? I thought it was me. He's talking. Is the music still playing while he's talking, or is that just something that's played over the broadcast?
Who deserve help and paid for most of it. You know, my great friend, he is a great friend, Governor O'Malley. He, my dad, the Biden family started off in Baltimore. They don't say Baltimore, it's Baltimore. In Baltimore. And, but we've been friends for a long time. And I just want to say at the outset, if you ever want anybody on your team, whether it's an athletic team, whether you're in a battle, whether it's a political team, whether it's a team just trying to help,
tell us,
you
Joe.
want O'Malley.
Oh.
The guy has guts.
You want O'Malley.
Sincerely.
Oh, no kidding. Yo, we listened to this shit for 4 years.
Not only has he not only political courage, has physical courage.
Oh.
He's across the board. If I want anybody standing next to me, I want O'Malley there with me. And I mean that sincerely.
I'm not kidding.
It really matters. You know, I always kid Maryland because Delaware, the second smallest state, we share the eastern shore of Maryland with Maryland. But we're close friends. And folks, you know, it's no surprise that he did a hell of a job when I asked him to be commissioner of the Social Security. And the reason I did that, it was not an ordinary transition for a governor. But I knew, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I knew we needed someone with some guts, some toughness, who'd fight for every single penny that it needed.
Then why are you giving illegal immigrants Social Security? Why is Social Security going insolvent? Why is there all this Social Security fraud? Why'd you allow like hundreds of thousands of people that are over the age of like possibly able to even be alive? It's not even a thing. Why are you giving them all that money, Joe? Huh? It's weird. You didn't want to look into that, but I need a guy with courage. I need a guy with physical courage. So when he was standing next to me, he could fight my battles. He could fight my battles.
I would try to restore the integrity of the system. And to everyone here today, I want to thank you, all of you, very much for this award. It means a great deal to me coming from you. And I mean that sincerely.
Why does he keep saying that? No, I mean that serious from the bottom of my heart. No kidding. You got to believe me. No, seriously.
A great deal. You're in the front lines every single day. You're helping. You're advocating for your fellow Americans, Americans with disability. It's a big deal. We talk about what happened in the physical side of it if we didn't have Social Security. Think of what the psychic calm gives so many people who just don't know where to go, don't know how to traverse what needs to be done, or alone. Last fall, on the White House lawn, we celebrated the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. As a United States Senator 400 years ago, I was looking back on it. God almighty, I've been doing this 50 years. It's hell turning 40 years old, anyway. But back in the year 1990, I was the co-sponsor of the Americans with Disabilities Act as a United States Senator.
I can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't do it. That's part of the American Disabilities Act. And I was out there doing the work for sucking at the government titty for years. And then I got into sniffing girls. And then something else happened. I'm not really sure. What the fuck is going on right now? What are we watching? God, let's get to some other stuff here. Shut up, Joe. Go away. Go back into the crypt. Jeez, Willies, we got this. I didn't get to watch this yesterday. We watched a clip this morning. This guy's a savage. Guy cleaned up an entire country. Hopefully, like Mr. 47 is going to be doing with ours. But damn, the Oval Office is looking good. It took a while to renovate it. Joey had it all doo-doo ridden. It probably smelled like fecal matter. It takes a while to get that out. Look, stains do not come out easy. Joey was rubbing his butt crack all over the walls and all over he's itchy like a dog. Joey was doing this. Now, here's the rug. Here's Joey's butt. And he was just going like this, like a dog. Like a dog.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to have a friend of mine because we went through this together and got along very well for my entire period of time. So I knew him as a very young man. Now he's just a young man. And he's done a fantastic job. Mr. President, it's an honor to have you. Thank you. You've done incredibly for your country. And we appreciate working with you because you want to stop crime, and so do we. And it's very, very effective. And I want to just say hello to the people of El Salvador and say they have one hell of a president.
They do.
And I mean that, and I know him well. I know him as a very young man, Marco, even younger than you. You know, he started pretty young.
We'll always be younger.
Young at heart. But I want to thank you for the great job you're doing. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be here in the Oval Office with the President and leader of the free world. We're very happy, and we're very eager to help. We know that you have a crime problem, a terrorism problem that you need help with. And we're a small country, but if we can help, we will do it. And we actually turned the murder capital of the world, that was the journalists call it, right? Murder capital of the world, into the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. And, you know, sometimes they say that we imprison thousands. I like to say that we actually liberated millions.
Yep.
So, you know, like... That's very good. Who gave him that line? Do you think I can use that?
Yes. And in fact, Mr. President, you have 350 million people to liberate. Yeah. But to liberate 350 million people, you have to imprison some. You know,
he makes a fabulous point here, and this is a culture shift in our society. You see it all the way from your local communities to your neighborhood, all the way to the most holistic view you could possibly get. I promise I'll let him finish, but this is a really important concept. What I have seen nowadays in our culture is that we're always catering to the few that's affecting the all. And what I mean by that is, well, everybody's going to get royally effed over, but don't worry, because we want to play nice to the people that are criminals, the murderers, the rapists, and all these other things. Well, now we're just going to screw over ourselves and shoot ourselves in the foot because there's some sort of disparity, right? There might be more of one race over the other in prison, or one race might commit more of the crimes than other races. And well, because of that, well, what's the reason? Why are they committing the crimes? Oh, because it's racism. That's why. They were held back in some way, shape, or form. And it might have been something from hundreds of years ago that kept them down. Or it could have been something from the Nordic countries that affected white people to oppress them. I mean, there's always some sort of excuse as to why you can't solve the problem, where this guy's making a great point. Lock up the people that are committing the crime, stop giving them free passes all the time, and you have a lot safer community. You'll have a very enriching country that you can make great again. Lock the people up, stop the crap, and get it going. That's exactly what he did, and he turned it around. And I'll give you a prime example. In the education, right now, you got a class full of 36 people. Let's do 35 because there's 350 million people in this country. We'll do 35 students. There's one student that's creating chaos. You can't do anything about it because that kid might have a bad home life, or that kid might have something going on outside of school, or maybe they had a breakup, or maybe they stubbed their toe against the freaking doormat. Hell, I don't know. Oh, but, you know, we can't do anything about it. So go ahead and fuck over 34 other people in the room so they don't get an education. Let's screw those people over each and every day throughout an entire school year because you want to be an attention grabber. And we can't put you in a separate room to get the same level of education. We got to make sure you fuck over everybody else because of equity, because they're just having a bad time. Boys will be boys, girls will be girls. They're just a teenager. He's just a kid. So let's screw over everybody else. In the same way, let's keep the criminals in the neighborhoods and in the communities. And so they could fuck over everybody else, steal their shit, commit heinous crimes, rape their kids, rape their wives, murder the children, send them off, kidnap them, send them off in the forced labor. But no, we can't touch them because, well, something maybe happened in their life early on, or there's racism or bigot. Something's going on that allows them to be able to do that type of crime. They're just going through a tough time. Let them be. Well, the guy's masturbating in front of my house, in front of my children, my daughters. I'm not really interested. No, he has to do that. He's just going through something. If you think I'm kidding, I'm not. That's what they do. They screw over the holistic view of everybody else, the community and everybody, for the small amount of people that are psychos.
The way it works, right? You cannot just free the criminals and think crime's going to go down magically. You have to imprison them so you can.
There you go. Fortunately, Krager was an a-hole kid. So let's handle this right now. Krager, you said it yourself. I was that asshole kid for a while. Krager, do you think you should have been allowed in the classroom to screw over everybody else's education? Or do you think you should have been put into another classroom with other kids that wanted to be jerks and still got an education, but you're the one that suffered rather than everybody else? And be honest with me. I'm not going to beat you up, but I would love an honest take from somebody that was on that viewpoint. Do you think you deserve to screw over that education for everybody else? Or should you have been put in a different room? And I think we'll get an honest take from him because we love Krager here. Shout out to Krager.
Liberate 350 million Americans that are asking for the end of crime and the end of terrorism. And it can be done. I mean, you're doing it already. And I'm sure that people have seen the change in the streets. A long way to go because you're just.
There you go. Hold on, Krager. No, stay there. I'm going to bring the proof. Not at all. Moved 100%, and I was. There you go. You heard it from the horse's mouth.
Initiating your second term, it's clear that with the numbers at the border, even in Democrat-run cities, they get a help from the work you're doing. So I'm really happy to be here, honored, and eager to help.
Well, we had a terrible thing happen. We had an administration that allowed people to come in freely into our country from not only South America, but from all over the world.
No, I'm tired of this. No.
Disturbing video.
You get the Democrats always wanting to ask for a proof. Here we go. No, here's your proof. No, it doesn't happen. Oh, guys are just sitting there doing stuff. No, here we go.
Shows a man exposing himself to a salon full of women, then getting away without being arrested. What happened here? Travis Rice live for us in Long Beach with the story. Travis.
Gee, God, does that sound a lot like where I live? Does Long Beach sound like maybe where I went to college and grew up on 2nd Street down there? Do you think that maybe have been in Long Beach?
Alex, imagine their frustration. The police station is just 5 minutes down the road, and again, a salon full of gals left helpless, essentially, as some guy does something unsavory at the front door. Shame on him! It takes Peeping Tom to a new level. Video shows the moments a man menaces employees at a Long Beach hair salon while multitasking.
All of my coworkers were sitting here at the table, and we were just minding our business. Comes in, asked for a haircut, didn't quite get what he was trying to say, headed out, sat in our chairs right behind us.
Fiona McLaughlin says the man waited outside on one of their chairs for 10 minutes before doing anything.
And from there, the public indecency incident happened.
And public indecency being he just was...
like just fully publicly masturbating in front of the salon.
They called 911 right away.
We called the cops 10 minutes later, and he was still going. And we called the cops 10 minutes after that, and he had just departed. And the cops didn't show up for another 10 minutes.
And I'm so angry.
Long Beach. Could Long Beach now? Who just might be the mayor of Long Beach, California? Who just might be the mayor of Long Beach? Well, let's find out here. Rex Richardson is a husband, father, and 29th mayor of Long Beach. Mayor Richardson's history at Long Beach is grounded in empowering communities to have a seat at the table. Well, they're being empowered, that's for sure. His track record of pursuing a positive change for his community has left an indelible mark. I can't freaking read that so tiny. That's what she said. On the entire city. He has continually worked alongside neighborhood leaders to bring vital public safety, economic, and community investments to Long Beach. Then why are they ransacking stores in Long Beach? The one guy that used to be the mayor of Long Beach is now, I think, a congressman or something like that. No, it's not Karen Bass. You would think so. You think the guy's a Democrat? Just you want to guess? Should we guess if the guy's a Democrat here? Does it actually say? Oh, yeah, no, it does. Here you go. Democratic. Party Democratic. Of course. Of course. Why would it be anything different? There was your receipts. That was just one case, by the way. If you go on Hollywood Boulevard, there's guys jerking off everywhere in front of your kids. They love it. Democrats love it.
The world, many from the Congo and Africa, Asia, all over the world, Europe, rough parts of Europe. And they came from prisons, and they came from mental institutions, and they came from gangs, and the gangs of Venezuela and other places. And hundreds of thousands and even millions of them came. 21 million people altogether, but many of the people that came, just a tremendous percentage of them were criminals, in some cases violent criminals. We had 11,088 known murderers. Half of them murdered more than one person. This was allowed by a man who, what he did to our country is just unbelievable. So we're straightening it out, we're getting him out. But what they did and what that party did to our country, open borders, anybody could come in. As soon as I heard that, I said, every prison's going to be emptied out into our country. That's what happened. And we're straightening it out. And we just had numbers. We had the highest recruiting numbers in the history of our country going into police departments. And a year ago, we had the lowest numbers. You couldn't hire a
biggest change. Yeah.
Nobody's
From
ever
the
seen.
lowest to the highest.
And the military now, Marines, the Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, every slot is, I mean, we have the best numbers we've ever had. We call it recruitment numbers. And we've never had anything like it. We had records on at every single level. But very important, the policemen. The policemen are joining forces now. That we really were having a hard time with policemen because we weren't protecting our police. Yeah. And we cherish our police. The police are great, and the firemen and everybody else. But we have the highest numbers that we've ever had, the most enthusiasm.
This guy's looking sharp, man. He's looking good, dude. It's a good-looking guy, man. A clean-cut beard, man. Hair combed back, nice hairline. Slim suit. Guy's looking freaking sharp. Hell yeah.
Great enthusiasm, and on trade and other things, we're doing great. We're taking in billions and billions of dollars. We made, 2 weeks ago, I gave him a little bit of a pause because, you know, you have to show a little flexibility, but we go back to what we have to do. The markets have been very strong once they got used to it, but we were losing $2 billion a day. There's no company big like this. This is the biggest deal ever made. Now we're making $3 billion a day. We're a great country, but we had stupid people running this country, and I can say it. What they've done to us at the border should never and can never be forgotten. It's a sin, what they did, and you are helping us out. And
settle down, ladies. Settle down, Q. Q says, I'm saying he's so yummy. Settle down, girl. I told you, Dark Maga gets spicy. Sometimes it's the men, sometimes it's the ladies. And I'll tell you what, the sisters are coming out right now. Settle down. He's taken.
We appreciate it.
You can only look, you can't touch.
Actually, what you're doing with the border is remarkable. It has dropped, what, 95%? It's incredible.
Okay. As of this morning, 99%, 99.1%.
Wow.
To be exact.
Why are those numbers not in the media?
Well, they get up at the fake news, you know, like CNN over here.
I like this guy, man. He knows what he's doing. He's one of the boys, dude. This guy's one of the boys, you know? Why is that not in the media? Great question.
Doesn't want to put them out because they don't like putting out good numbers. They only like putting out because I think they hate our country actually. But it's a shame. You're right. Isn't that a great question? Why doesn't the media? Why don't they put out numbers?
Yeah, 99%. I mean, it's crazy, right?
We're doing
it's a crazy turnout.
Christy,
he could be trying to rile Trump up too.
You maybe say a couple of words about the border, how we're doing?
You know, she's been absolutely phenomenal. What a great leader can do. Clear direction. Our laws matter. We should only have people in our country that love us, and the Border Patrol and our ICE officers and law enforcement officers have done fantastic work. So we're proud of them. Now we just need to get the criminals and murderers and rapists and dangerous gang members and terrorist organizations out of our country. So, Mr. President Kelly, we thank you very much for your partnership. It has been wonderful for us to be able to have somewhere to send the worst of the worst and someone to partner with. And we'd like to continue that partnership because it's been a powerful message of consequences. Mr. President, you wanted people to know that there was consequences if you break our laws and harm our people and endanger families. And this is a clear consequence for the worst of the worst that we have somewhere to put them.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we even had this gang member from Venezuela, one of the ones you sent, and we interviewed him just to get some information, etc. from them. And he said, oh, well, I got arrested 6 times, but they released me the 6 times, so I should be released again. And then he said, well, what's the last thing you do? And he said, well, I shot a cop in the leg, but I didn't kill him. I just shot him in the leg. And we're like, this guy...
I just shot the... I'm telling you, this is Democrat thinking. I just shot the guy in the leg. It's fine. He'll live.
Was arrested 6 times here in the United States. 6 times. He was released 6 times. And in the he was released 5 times. And the last time he was sent to El Salvador, right? So he's not getting released. But the last time he shot a cop, actually, and he shot him in the leg. So these are...
Crazy.
Like you said, there's something broken.
It's the liberal establishment, but they're not running things anymore in this country, and we're run by, and I don't say conservative, I don't say anything, we're run by people with great common sense.
Yeah, common sense.
Because it's all common sense. It's not liberal conservative, it's common sense. And, like, do you allow men to play in women's sports? Do you allow men to box your women and box? Because I know you have a lot of boxers.
That's violence.
That's abuse of a woman. It's abuse of a woman. But we have people that fight to the death because they think men should be able to play in women's sports. And some of those sports, it wouldn't matter much, but it still matters. But some of them are very dangerous for women.
Some years ago, I said a decade ago or so, women rights movements were pressuring so that we enacted specific laws to avoid men abusing women. And I think those laws were great because there were a lot of men abusing women.
Isn't that crazy? So we actually have domestic abuse laws here in the United States. But when it comes to sports, it's like, have fun. Oh, yeah, no, go put on a dress and go beat the shit out of another woman. You have fun at it. In any other scenario, that would be abuse of women. But the Democrats, it's fine. Go beat the shit out of them. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy.
But now some of the same people are trying to backtrack on that and actually trying to make new laws allowing men to abuse women in sports.
Yes.
So actually, that doesn't make sense.
Sports.
It doesn't make sense.
It's crazy. You know, they have weightlifting records, right?
Yeah.
A woman gets up, lifts weights, she's incredible. A guy gets up and beats her by 100 pounds. What are you going to do? A record that hadn't been broken in 18 years. You know, they put on an ounce, quarter of an ounce, eighth of an ounce for 18 years. Now they have a guy come up, ping. The whole thing is crazy. But they continue to fight. And I don't like talking about it because I want to save it.
Dude, who is this girl, dude? She is loving Trump right now. She is all giddy. Is this part of his crew? Because I could see that. Is she with this guy?
For just before the next election, I said to my people, don't even talk about it because they'll change. And but I watched this morning. There was a congressman fighting to the death for men to play against women in sports. And you say to yourself, why? What are they doing, right? What are they doing? But your country's not too big in that.
No, of course not. We're big in protecting women.
You're good. That's right. It's a very important form of protection, too.
And as you can see, most of my cabinet are women, so.
That's impressive.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why you're
She
right.
is with them. DEI hires or anything.
They
They're
can
just
be
great at what they do. Right?
That's right. This is very impressive.
Yeah,
This is a first. We've had women, but we've never had 3 of them right here. That's
4 and 3
And
men.
look at what we have. You guys feel a little bit mistreated? That's good. I like it. Well, we've been advanced. I've been very advanced in that regard too. We have Pam, who's been so fantastic. Christy, and the most powerful woman they say.
I know. Exactly. They're all afraid of her.
Susie Wells. They say, oh,
Did you hear what he said? They're all afraid of Christy. Hell yeah, dude. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Boom.
most powerful woman in the world, according to magazines. What do I know? But I think she probably is.
Yeah.
You know, she probably is.
Congratulations.
And you know, Stephen has done such a great job. We have great people.
Very famous too.
But we love working with him. He really lets them have it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no games.
No. It's very good.
He knows. Do you have any questions, please? Go. Let's not start with CNN because there's.
Yes. She's always first to talk. She can't help herself because she's rude as shit.
So they're just so wrong. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. You repeatedly mentioned last night that Russia's attack on Ukraine was a mistake. What is the exact mistake? And have you given Putin a deadline to actually move toward a ceasefire?
The mistake was letting the war happen. If Biden were competent, and if Zelensky were competent, and I don't know that he is. We had a rough session with this guy over here. He just kept asking for more and more. That war should have never.
Wow, there's a little bit of behind the scenes is that I guess he was also treating the El Salvadorian president a little bit wrongly.
Been allowed to happen. That war, I went 4 years and Putin wouldn't even bring it up. And as soon as the election was rigged and I wasn't here, that war started. There was no way that war should have been allowed to happen. And Biden should have stopped it. And you take a look at Putin. I'm not saying anybody's an angel, but I will tell you, I went 4 years and it wasn't even a question. He would never, and I told him, don't do it. You're not going to do it. And it was the apple of his eye, but there was no way that he would have done it.
Is that Churchill behind it? God, that looks a lot like Winston Churchill.
What to do is lower oil prices. If you lowered oil prices, Biden kept the prices so high because he made it impossible to get it. If you lowered oil prices, you would have never had the war. But you wouldn't have had it with me anyway. That war would have never happened. And I think it's a great abuse. So now what do? You get a country where 25% of its land is gone, and the best locations, where millions of people are killed. You know, you haven't reported accurately the death. And this was Biden's war, and I'm trying to stop it. And I think we're going to do a good job. I hope we're going to do it. They lose 2,500 young people a week, think on average.
Wow.
Now they're Russians and they're Ukrainians, but it's 2,000. We don't care. It's like whatever it is. They're not from your country. They're not from mine. But I want to stop it. 2,500. It's a killing field. It's like the Civil War. You take a look. I look at the satellite pictures. This should not be happening in our time. Of course, our time can be pretty violent, as we know. But that's a war that should have never been allowed to start. And Biden could have stopped it, and Zelensky could have stopped it, and Putin should have never started it. Everybody's to blame.
Have you spoken to President Zelensky, sir, about his offer to purchase more Patriot missile batteries?
Oh, I don't know. He's always looking to purchase missiles, you know. He's against. Listen, when you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, right? You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size and then hope that people give you some missiles. If we didn't give them what we gave.
I think he misspoke there. I'm going to go back. I think he misspoke.
You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size.
Yeah, that's a rough one. We got to take that hit, boys. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to take that hit.
and then hope that people give you some. What we gave, remember, I gave them javelins. That's how they won their first big battle with the tanks that got stuck in the mud, and they took them out with javelins. They have an expression that Obama at the time, Obama gave them sheets and Trump gave them javelins. But just something that should have never happened. It's a really shame. The towns are destroyed. Towns and cities are, largely destroyed. They have the spires, the beautiful spires that go up. They say that we're the most beautiful in the world in Ukraine for whatever reason, but the most beautiful in the world. They're mostly laying on their side, shattered and broken. And most importantly, you have millions of people dead. Millions of people dead because of 3 people. I would say 3 people. Let's say Putin, number 1, but let's say Biden, who had no idea what the hell he was doing, number 2, and Zelensky. And all I can do is try and stop it. That's all I want to do. I want to stop the killing. And I think we're doing well in that regard. I think you'll have some very good proposals very soon.
Last question, sir. Have you attributed a motive, sir? Have you attributed a motive through the FBI investigation behind the attack on Governor Josh Shapiro over the weekend?
No, I haven't, but the attacker was not a fan of Trump, I understand, and just from what I read and from what I've been told. The attacker basically wasn't a fan of anybody. It's probably just a whack job. And certainly a thing like that cannot be allowed to happen.
Good relation with President Bukele, the best guarantee that this time you won't terminate the temporary.
I have a great relationship with this man. I have the best relationship with him. We've known each other. I've known him since he was a very young man, as I said, very, very young. And I was impressed. I said, look at this guy is, in fact, you sort of look like a teenager. You look like a teenager. I said, what kind of a country is this? He grew up well in the last 5 years.
Do you support extension for nationals of El Salvador under?
I support him.
Do you plan to ask
Go ahead, let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor at CNN.
Oh God, here we go.
To ask President
Low rated.
to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly
Which one is that?
deported. The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador.
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
We watched this morning, but we get it in 4K this time, which means it's even that much better, and it's going to be better the second time.
Our president, first and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, 2 courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So will you return him,
And you are doing a great job. Thank you. Stephen Miller, wait a minute. Could you just also respond to that question? Because, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant. Because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also, please?
Yes. Hey, who's this guy back here? Who is that guy? He's loving it too. Guys, I know we say it all the time. We get 3.5 more years of this. More than 3.5. It's only been not even 3 months yet. It hasn't even been 100 days.
Gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As 2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan to ask for it? But the Supreme Court's asking to...
And what was the ruling in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0.
In our favor?
In our favor, against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual, at El Salvador's sole discretion, was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time. No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court, can only be directed to him.
I asked
Can President
Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to not suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States. Right?
It's only
how can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or whether of course I'm not going to do it. It's like, I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
But you could release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world to the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? And that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into our country.
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people.
They really are. We said this morning, man. I live in a Democrat state. I'm not fucking with you guys. They love this shit, man. They love the criminals running rampant in the streets, willy-nilly. Freedom, baby. They want to give your tax money to the illegals. They want to give it to the criminals. They want to give it to the drug rings, the sex traffickers, all of it. I'm telling you, it's a thing. They're sick people. They're not mentally well. Even he's sitting here going, what the fuck is wrong with you people wanting to allow terrorists to roam free? He's sitting there going, what the fuck is happening?
Marco, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin. Except for Venezuela, that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
Can we give a shout out to Marco for just doing a phenomenal job? The guy's killing it. Especially, hey, Trump ripped him a new one in 2016. The guy, that's how men are, man. We put our differences aside. We get shit done. Marco is doing a fantastic job. 10 out of 10, man. I have nothing bad to say about. I hand to God, I have nothing to say about this guy busting his ass. He's taking time away from his family to do great work as the Secretary of State, traveling around the world, negotiations galore. Phenomenal job, Marco. Keep it up, dude.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way, to Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. We won a case 9-0, and people like CNN are portraying it as a loss, as usual, because they want foreign terrorists in the country who kidnap women and children. But President Trump, his policy is foreign terrorists that are here illegally get expelled from the country, which, by the way, is a 90-10 issue.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One.
Whose mic keeps bumping into something, man? Clean up the mic!
How long do we have to answer this question from you? Why don't you just say, Isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over? And that's why nobody watches you anymore. You know, you have no credibility. Please, go ahead.
President Trump, thank you so much. How many illegal criminals are you planning on exporting to El Salvador? And President Bukele, how many are you?
I don't know, President, how much room do you have?
willing to take from the U.S.?
As many as possible. And I just asked the president, you know, it's this massive complex that he built, jail complex.
Look, he's gonna
I said, can you build some more of that, please?
I was joking. I was joking. Yes. Oh, fucking. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. Live in the fucking greatest time. You live in the greatest time. You're the best guy ever, man. Can you build more? Joking. You boom, baby!
As many as we can get out of our country that were allowed in here by incompetent Joe Biden through open borders. Open borders. You probably hear open borders and you can't even understand it because nobody can understand. Nobody smart or with common sense can understand it. So we have millions of people that should not be in this country that are dangerous. Not just people, because we have people, but we have millions of people that are murderers, drug dealers. They've been allowed to come into our country by other countries that were very smart. When they heard that this very low IQ president, and by the way, I took my cognitive exam as part of my physical exam, and I got the highest mark, and one of the doctors said, "Sir, I've never seen anybody get that kind of, that was the highest mark." I hope you're happy with that, although they haven't been bugging me too much to take a cognitive, but I did do my physical and it was released. I hope you're all happy with it. I noticed there's no question, so probably you are. But the cognitive, they said to me, "Sir, would you like to take a cognitive test?" I said, "Did Biden take one?" "No." "Did anybody take one?" "No, not too many people took them." I said, what about Obama? Did he take one?" "No, he didn't take one either." I said, "Let me be the only one to take one." But I've actually taken them 3 times already. I like taking them because they're not too tough for me to take. But we had a great physical exam, so I knew you were going to ask that. And the doctors who are total professionals, Walter Reed Medical Center, they're great people. And I visited a soldier that was badly wounded, incredible soldier, lost his leg. Spent a lot of time with him. I mean, great with his mother. And it was really a very great thing. They do a phenomenal job. I just want to say, Walter Reed, I was there for, 5-6 hours. You were there with me. But I took a full physical and it came out perfecto, so that's good. You've got me for a little longer.
Would you be willing to pay for those facilities to be opened if new ones were going to be built?
I'd do something. We'd help them out. Yeah, we have one. They're great facilities, very strong facilities, and
Trump. Dude, my face, from my front of my face to the back of my head, is hurting because I'm smiling and laughing so hard, dude. It's the best cognitive.
They don't play games. I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country, but
Me too. And by the way, when they serve their time, come on back. Because legally you have to, right? But yeah, get the scum out of here.
I'll have to be looking at the laws on that, Steve, okay?
How essential is it for you guys to be locking up these prisoners? And do you think more presidents should follow suit like you guys as far as keeping a hard stance on crime in the United States?
Well, I do. I think everybody has to. I mean, the president said it better than anybody. He said, you have liberty and you have to have liberty, but to have liberty, not everybody is going to be good.
Exactly.
And some are bad because they're sick. They're mentally deranged. They're bad.
Why do you think
and you have to take them, if you're going to have a country, you're going to have to take those people out. And we've been doing that. But this was like an unforced error, they would call it, where we had people that may hate our country, or maybe they're just stupid people. I think they're probably stupid people more so.
Me too, Mr.
A lot of
President.
people said they did it for the vote. But I did better with Hispanic people than they did, because I always use Hispanic. I did better. You people love me. I saw my poll numbers in your country up through the roof, right? 91%.
Whoa.
No.
Is that true?
Some people think they do it for the vote. But they don't have to do it for the vote. They cheat, they're professional cheaters. That's about the only thing they do well. So we just have had a great relationship, and it's become bigger because of a strange thing that happened. I came back. We had no war in Ukraine. We had no war we had no October 7th Middle East problem. We had nothing. We had no inflation. We didn't have the Afghanistan, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, the Afghanistan, not withdrawing, because I would have been out, I had it all set to bring people out with dignity and pride. That was the worst, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan. We didn't have any of that. You wouldn't have had the war with Russia, Ukraine. You wouldn't have had the Middle East problem because Iran was broke. They had no money because we had secondary sanctions on and lots of other sanctions. And now every single thing, got a problem with Iran, but I'll solve that problem. That's almost an easy one. We got to solve a war that should have never started, Ukraine and Russia, and we'll get that solved. And we have to solve problems, and we already solved inflation. If you look at the numbers are incredible, actually. The stock market's up, and we're not letting other countries take advantage of this country like they have for the last 40 years. So thank you very much. You have a question, please?
Yes, I do, Mr. President. Thank you so much. You scored another major investment win this morning when Nvidia pledged to build its AI supercomputer, the first time ever, right here in the United States.
Thank you. Now that's a question I like. That's true.
What is your reaction to this announcement, sir, and how will this positively benefit Americans across the entire country?
Well, it's one of the biggest announcements you'll ever hear, because Nvidia, as you know, controls that almost the entire sector, which is one of the most important sectors in the world, between chips and semiconductors and everything else. And they're the biggest. And the other biggest we already have coming in and spending $300 billion, as you know. They announced 2 weeks ago. But Nvidia is so highly respected. And this was an announcement that a lot of people, I knew it was going to happen, but not to the extent that it happened. It's big. And the reason they did it is because of the election on November 5th and because of a thing called tariffs. As I say, the most beautiful word in the dictionary. After love, God, relationship. The press actually hit me and said, tariff is the most beautiful word in the dictionary. What about family, love, God? So I got hit even on that. You understand? I said, okay. So now I say it's my 5th most favorite word, because they get you on anything. But that Nvidia, it's one of the great companies of the world, modern, super modern companies, controls segments that nobody, sort of controls the world in a sense, and they're coming in here in the biggest way with hundreds of billions of dollars. Not like millions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, and I'm honored by it. And I want to thank Jensen and all of the people that we deal with. They're great people, they're brilliant people. And without tariffs, they wouldn't be doing it. Thank you very much.
Are you considering additional sanctions against Russia after their latest attack? And do you have an update on the rate and when you might announce semiconductor?
Well, I already have sanctions on Russia. I put them there. If you remember, Nord Stream 2, that's the big pipeline that goes through Europe. I stopped it. That's Russia's pipeline, the largest pipeline, I think, in the world, goes to Germany. And I stopped it. And when Biden came in, he approved it. And then they say, oh, I'm friendly with Russia. No. Putin said,
No.
If you're my friend, I'd hate to see you when you're my enemy. I stopped the biggest economic job they ever had. I stopped it cold, right? It was dead. You know that, right? And Biden came in and he immediately approved it. What was that all about?
Sanctions, sir?
And it's a pipeline that takes care of a lot of the needs. Now, you know, it was a very controversial thing, but I stopped it, and Biden approved it. Question?
On tariffs?
No, not you. Not you.
Sir, on tariffs.
Go ahead.
Pharmaceuticals?
What?
Semiconductor tariffs and potentially pharmaceuticals?
Pharmaceuticals, we're going to do. We don't make our own drugs, our own pharmaceuticals. We don't make our own drugs anymore. The drug companies are in Ireland and they're in lots of other places, China. And all I have to do is impose a tariff. The more, the faster they move in. The higher the tariff, it's very serious. It's inversely proportional. The higher the tariff, the faster they come. And yeah, we're going to be doing that. That's going to be like we have on cars. We have, as you know, a 25% tariff on cars. We have a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum. And that's what that category fits right now.
Do you have a percentage in mind and a timeline?
I have a timeline, yeah, not too distant future. And we're doing it because we want to make our own drugs. We're doing it because we want to make our own steel and aluminum, lumber, other things. And they're all coming in. We have records.
Why is this so hard for people to grasp, like, what he's trying to do? Like, I get the fine detail because there is some wish-washy going on with the communication within the Trump administration. Like, I get that, but the holistic view, I think how do you not understand this? The guy wants manufacturing back here. It's not difficult. It's not hard to wrap your head around, but for some people, it clearly is.
Number $7 trillion. Since I announced, like a month and a half ago, since I came in, we have over $7 trillion being invested in the country. We didn't have $1 trillion. We didn't have $500 billion with some of these guys. I didn't know what the hell they were doing. So we have the largest investment that we've ever heard of, and we're only 2 months in. And that'll continue at levels that you've never seen before. That's what's going to happen. And even the stock market's up today. It's we also, you know, a lot of people didn't say it the way it was. We had the largest gain in the stock market in history on every single category last week. That was a nice game because we're getting a little hit because people didn't understand the power of our economic, our country economically if you use it right. Do you have something to say on that, JD?
Yes, sir. I mean, look, for 40 years we have lost manufacturing capacity. Workers have seen their wages stagnate, and some of the most critical things that we need, from the pharmaceuticals, the drugs that we give to our children, the antibiotics that we give to our kids, to the weapons that we actually need to fight a war, if God forbid we had to fight a war, we don't make enough of that stuff. And so President Trump ran explicitly on changing that. Yes, as the president mentioned, it caused a little bit of disruption in the market, but I actually think over the long term, workers are going to benefit, stocks are going to go up, American businesses are going to benefit as we reinvest and reindustrialize our country.
And the auto workers and the Teamsters and all of the unions, you know, not traditionally Republican, but I'm winning those unions by, 40, 50 points on the Democrats. They're losing everything. And they're losing everything because they just have policies that are not believable. They fight for policies that are 5% popular, and nobody knows who the 5% are. I mean, nobody can find the 5%. But if you go back to Ohio, and by the way, we have the great championship team from Ohio coming in today, right?
Very big day.
And that's going to be a little bit.
JD split the trophy. It was already split, to be fair, so he didn't break it. I thought he did at first. It's just 2 parts. Horrible trophy, by the way. Like, who makes a trophy like that? But JD, yeah, that was a little bit of a moment for him.
Later. And that'll be, if you want to stick around, I'll introduce you to some nice people. You'll see some very large people, right? You'll see some people that even you have not seen people. These are big, these are 6'7", 380 pounds with no fat. Okay, that's pretty good. Right? But the team, the national championship team, is being honored today at the White House, so that'll be exciting if you're around. You want to stay around? I'll have you up there. You can tell them all about your prison, how you have to behave. Okay. Who else? Go ahead.
She just keeps running her mouth. She can't shut up. She just can't. Can you imagine somebody dating that woman or being married to her? I don't wish that upon my worst enemy. I don't wish that upon anybody to have to marry that woman. It has to be the most awful thing out there. Can you imagine just listening to that day in and day out, the yapping, the constant can't shut the hell up? Can I get some peace and quiet for once? God, can you imagine? If she is married, man, I feel bad for that guy. Well, he was an idiot for doing it, but God, she just can't shut the hell up, can she?
You said yesterday that you're making a decision on Iran very quickly.
She really is a nightmare, man.
Well, they have to solve their problem very quickly. Iran wants to deal with us, but they don't know how. They really don't know how. We had a meeting with them on Saturday. We have another meeting scheduled next Saturday. I said, that's a long time. You know, that's a long time. So I think they might be tapping us along. But Iran has to get rid of the concept of a nuclear weapon. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. He can't have a nuclear weapon. Nobody can have. You can't have anybody having nuclear weapons. You know.
Hey, welcome to the
nuclear weapons. And I think they're tapping us along because we're so used to dealing with stupid people in this country. And I had Iran perfect. You had no attacks. You would have never had October 7th in Israel, the attack by Hamas. Because Iran was broke. They were stone cold broke when I was president. And I don't want to do that. I want them to be a rich, great nation. The only thing is, one thing, simple. It's really simple. They can't have a nuclear weapon. And they got to go fast because they're fairly close to having one. And they're not going to have one. And if we have to do something very harsh, we'll do it. And I'm not doing it for us. I'm doing it for the world. And these are radicalized people, and they cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Does that include a potential strike on Iranian nuclear facilities?
Of course it does.
I was hoping he would be clear. I was hoping he would say, absolutely, boom.
And just a follow-up question, a clarification. You mentioned that you're open to deporting individuals that aren't foreign aliens, but criminals to El Salvador.
Yep.
Does that include potentially U.S. citizens or naturalized Americans?
Yep.
If they're criminals and if they hit people with baseball bats over their head that happen to be 90 years old, and if they rape 87-year-old women in Coney Island, Brooklyn, that includes them. What do you think? There's a special category of person? They're as bad as anybody that comes in. We have bad ones too, and I'm all for it.
It's remarkable because he's putting the Democrats in a position to advocate for these people that the most evil out there, cutting off women's heads and playing sexual delusions with it and funky weird shit. And the Democrats are going to be parading the streets and protesting and advocating to have these rapist murderers in our country. Why? It's going to put them in that position. Well, they're Americans. They deserve to be here. You forfeit that once you start beheading somebody and using their body as a sexual pleasure device. Yeah, I'm good. You can get the fuck out.
Because we can do things with the president for less money and have great security. And we have a huge prison population. We have a huge number of prisons, and then we have the private prisons, and some are operated well, I guess, and some aren't. But he does a great job with that. We have others that we're negotiating with too. But no, if it's a homegrown criminal, I have no problem. Now, we're studying the laws right now. Pam is studying. If we can do that, that's good. And I'm talking about violent people. I'm talking about really bad people. Really bad people. Every bit as bad as the ones coming in. And I made the statement when I heard about this a long time ago now, 4 years ago. When I heard that this guy was having open borders, I said every single criminal from all over the world is going to be dumped into our country. And that's what happened. The jails of the Congo were emptied out. The jails of Venezuela were emptied out. And you know what happened? Their crime went way down. But now Venezuela has other country problems. You know what the problem is? They have no money. Because I shut off their oil and we put secondary tariffs because they're not doing what's right over there. They know what to do. We spoke to them. I spoke to them. They know what to do. But they have no money. Venezuela has no money. But Iran had no money. And Iran behaved so beautifully. And then Biden took all those secondary tariffs and tariffs on. I told China, you can't buy oil. If you buy oil from Iran, China.
I gotta give it up to this guy, bro. Dude's been sitting there for 40 fucking minutes and hasn't really said anything.
I told it to President Xi that we no longer want you to do business with the United States of America. And those ships disappeared from that harbor so quickly. China. Get along great with China.
Are the talks with Iran productive? Do you want to continue that? The talks with Iran, do you believe those are productive? Do you want to continue that?
I think Iran could be a great country as long as it doesn't have nuclear weapons. If they have nuclear weapons, they'll never get a chance to be a great country. They will never get a chance. It won't even come close.
Sir, on tariffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yesterday you mentioned short-lived product exemptions. Which specific products are you considering, and how long is short-lived? Weeks, months?
I'm looking at.
Can I just mention something? It shows how disrespectful the media is that you got a president from a foreign country sitting here and you're not going to ask him any questions. The only question was proposed by Caitlin Collins, and that was because Stephen Miller told her, hey, you should actually be asking the guy that's the president of the person that we deported. Maybe ask that guy and direct it towards him. That was the only question. It's kind of disrespectful to not have anything. It's fine to ask Trump a question, but say, I have a follow-up for the president of El Salvador. The guy came all the way here. It'd be nice to get some questions, his thoughts on maybe some. The reason why they don't want to ask him any questions because he knows he's going to rip him a new one and side with Trump.
It's something to help some of the car companies where they're switching to parts that were made in Canada, Mexico, and other places, and they need a little bit of time because they're going to make them here, but they need a little bit of time. So I'm talking about things like that.
What about any Apple products, other cell phones?
Look, I'm a very flexible person. I don't change my mind, but I'm flexible. And you have to be. You just can't have a wall and you'll only go. Sometimes you have to go around it, under it, or above it. There'll be maybe things coming up. I speak to Tim Cook. I helped Tim Cook recently, and that whole business. I don't want to hurt anybody, but the end result is we're going to get to the position of greatness for our country. We're the greatest economic power in the world if we're smart. If we're not smart, we're going to hurt our country very badly. We lost with China over the Biden years trillions of dollars on trade. Trillions of dollars. And he let them fleece us. And we can't do that anymore. And you know what? I don't blame China at all. I don't blame President Xi. I like him. He likes me. I mean, who knows? Who the hell cares?
Do you have any updates on talks
but you know
with
what?
China?
What?
Do you have any updates with talks with China?
No, let me just tell you this. I don't blame China. I don't blame Vietnam. I see their meeting today. Is that wonderful? That's a lovely meeting. They're meeting like trying to figure out how do we screw the United States of America? Don't forget, the European Union was formed to do just that. The European Union was formed to hurt the United States and on trade. And they get us on NATO because they don't pay their bills. But now, since I got involved, they have been paying their bills. I took in over $600 billion for NATO. Nobody took in anything. I mean, they were all delinquent. They had 8 nations out of 28 paid their bills. The rest of them were way delinquent. And I said, if you don't pay your bills, we're not going to protect you anymore. And the money poured in over 600. The Secretary General last week made that statement. He said, I've never seen anything like it. We couldn't get anybody to pay because the United States was footing the bill for NATO. Well, we got hurt there, and we got hurt on trade, likewise, European Union. And they've got to come to the table. And they're trying to. They're trying to. But the European Union has taken terrible advantage. They don't take our food products. They don't take our cars. We have millions of their cars, BMW, Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, many others. They come in by the millions. They don't take, there are no Chevrolets in Munich, I can tell you that. I said to Angela Merkel when she was there, as she was letting millions of people infiltrate Germany, which was not so good from, we would call them illegal immigrants, but she made them legal. But I said to her, and I got along with her very well, I said, how many Chevrolets do we have in Munich or Frankfurt? Why, none, Donald, none. I said, you're right. And yet we take in millions and millions of cars. No, those days are over.
How long do you
Okay.
think the exemption?
Thank you very much, everybody.
It's a long press conference for both presidents there. Something you guys mentioned in the chat here was this is breaking news. The Donald Trump administration refers to New York AG James for possible prosecution over allegations of mortgage fraud. Holy lordy. Well, here we
I
go.
can buy that would back up my.
It's important that attorneys general representing our respective states stand up and enforce the rule of law. The president of these United States is not above the law.
No matter how rich, powerful, or politically connected you are, everyone must play by the same rules.
Please sue him for us.
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the.
And now the Trump Justice Department may be a pain in her you-know-what. The Angle has obtained shocking allegations leveled by the Trump administration against New York Attorney General Letitia James. The Federal Housing Finance Agency has sent a criminal referral to the DOJ accusing James of mortgage fraud. In a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Director Bill Pulte says James appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms. He cited a property in Virginia that she's allegedly claimed as her principal residence and a property in New York that she claimed as a 4-unit structure instead of the required, instead of a 5, which Pulte says means she was able to get a different type and more favorable loan.
Oh.
Joining me now is Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor and law professor at GW University. Jonathan,
It's a creepy smile, John.
is rampant in the
Lock that smile up, John. It's creepy. Gives me Joker vibes.
United States. There's all sorts of fraud that's rampant. There's disability fraud that they've vowed to crack down on in the Trump administration. But this is another thing that they have vowed to crack down on because it costs real money. Your reaction to these allegations?
Well, obviously, the irony is perfectly crushing. This is a person who prosecuted Trump for everything short of ripping a label off a mattress. And among the charges that were brought in New York, in not just the civil but the criminal case, was making false or misleading statements to financial institutions. And one of these sections, Section 1014 of the federal code, is prosecuted. It took me about 60 seconds of a search to find cases that the Department of Justice brought against people who falsely claimed that property was their principal residence in order to get loans. So this is well-tread areas for the Justice Department. As for James, if we apply the Letitia James standard that she created, there'd be little question here. This seems pretty straightforward. What the administration is saying is this was not her principal residence. In fact, as a New York elected official, she had to say that her principal residence was in New York. This was an out-of-state residence. But also, they claim that in some of these forms, she actually states that her father is her husband in order to file as a married couple. So there's a lot of those questions. And as you know, the Supreme Court just stated earlier in March in a case called Thompson that they want to see knowing false statements under sections like 1014, not just misleading statements. These are misleading statements. Either it's your principal residence or it's not.
Or it's not.
Either you're married to your father or he's your father. So
that's crazy, yo. That's crazy.
This can satisfy the Thompson standard.
Damn.
Yeah, well, Jonathan, we reached out to the DOJ, and they have no comment on this referral. We also reached out to Attorney General James, who did not respond to us either. So, again, everyone wants the best interest rate you can get. I understand that. But, you know, she's a lawyer. She knows that when you sign a mortgage application, that mortgage application, if you're borrowing money, if you're not borrowing money, nobody cares whether it's your principal residence, except, you know, where you file your taxes. But she decided to state that that was her principal residence, knowing it was not her principal residence. I didn't even know she had property. I mean, I guess she had property in Virginia and she has rental or investment property in New York. That's fine. But in the New York matter, to get the favorable rate, the building could only have 4 units, but for it looks like its entirety, the entirety of this building, it had 5 units, meaning it was in violation of the actual loan agreement. And again, this is not a novel application of the law, Jonathan. As you stated during the persecution of Donald Trump, she was using all these novel applications of law to go after him.
Twisted and turning it.
This is a black and white issue. You either did or you didn't.
Right, and this has been prosecuted in the past. Now, we have not heard her side of this, but these documents themselves are quite damning. It's hard to see how the residences listed were her principal residence. The business about her father is just bizarre. Now, I'll note that one of the things that Letitia James stressed in her case against Trump is that Trump had to review documents that were filed in his name. And so she dismissed the argument that this was something that Trump's people put together. She said he's ultimately responsible. So they allege that she gave a power of attorney in a couple of these instances, but according to her own standards, that's not enough.
Well, Professor, the referral cites the case against the former Baltimore City prosecutor, Marilyn Mosby, because she was sentenced to a year in home confinement for lying about her finances to make early withdrawals from retirement funds during COVID, and then fraudulently claimed that her own $5,000 was a gift from her then husband as she closed on a Florida condo. So the idea that again, this is just no one ever goes after politicians for these types of, which may seem like small amounts, and they add up.
They do, and this is really for James, the very case that she most famously brought. She insisted that these technicalities matter and that the powerful should not be given a free pass. Well, that bill has come due in this case. She's going to have to deal with this filing. I'm honestly just not sure how you defend against this unless you say that these are fraudulent documents.
Jonathan, I have to
I don't know
raise
either,
this
actually.
because the Democrats, when this really starts to blow up, which it should after the show, they're going to say, look, aha, see, this is a revenge presidency. They're weaponizing the
Good point,
DOJ
Laura.
against Democrats, so it's a tit for tat.
Yep, good point.
Do you see
Who
that
gives a shit
as
if it is?
a potential
cares?
vulnerability here?
So it is.
Well, we are certainly living in that age, but the fact is James herself rejected that argument made when she brought, in my view, a ludicrous case in New York. That case was something that ultimately resulted in a grotesque ruling. By the way, the timing here is not good. We're waiting for the appellate decision to come down. It's been a very long time. Each day we're looking for the appellate court to issue the review. Many of us expect that it will not go well for James, but having this pop up in the news just couldn't be great for her team. I'm sure they are really in a very tight fetal position right now.
I would say so. Some other news we have here now. I'm sure you guys are interested in this. This is something that I kind of think about quite a bit, is where's our military at? This is kind of a deviation away from the tariffs and the new lawsuit, I guess, that's taking place here with Letitia James. China could sink entire U.S. carrier fleet in 20 minutes, Pentagon chief warns. This is not good. In a rare admission, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said that the Chinese hypersonic missiles could destroy all U.S. aircraft carriers in just all of them, by the way, all of ours, in just 20 minutes. So far, our U.S. whole power projection platform is aircraft carrier and the ability to project power that way strategically around the globe. However, Hegseth added that China's 15 hypersonic missiles could take out 10 aircraft carriers in the first 20 minutes of the conflict. Losing war games to China, Hegseth said that the U.S. loses with China in every war game run by the Pentagon. China is building an army specifically designed to destroy the U.S. Correct, and they've been doing so for quite some time. This is not any news, and this is something I've commented on year after year after year, and we just sit on our ass. Barack Obama and the Democrat Party wanted to dissolve the United States military. They were actively removing bases in 2008. You want to know how I know that? because I live in Southern California and there's multiple weapon stations as well as military bases in Southern California. They got rid of a few of them under Obama's administration. It's not a good thing. We need more defense, and we need to be able to counteract the mechanisms that China's funding right now, like what they're putting in the South China Sea. They're building up islands. They're building up their aircraft carriers, of which I think they only have 2 or 3, but they're getting more. It's not a good thing, and we're effed right now. What good is a Navy if it could be depleted in 20 minutes? And by the way, we don't have the manufacturing Democrats to build the stuff. They still can't answer my question. Who's going to build the shit when bleep hits the fan? And you see what I did there? I cussed and then I bleeped it out the second time because that's what we do here. The U.S. Defense Secretary also noted China's risk to the Panama Canal, an artificial 82-kilometer Panama waterway connecting the Caribbean Sea with the Pacific Ocean. According to the shipping network, approximately 40% of U.S. container traffic relies on this route annually, with the United States as the canal's largest user. In 2021, over 73% of all vessels transiting the canal were destined for our deporting from U.S. ports. So massive things going on with us in China, all of which are not good. But don't worry. Just continue to deplete our military so that we're screwed at the end of the day. And for some reason, people think that China's not going to do it. They would never. Well, they also said the same thing about Russia. Russia would never go in, and look what they did. They went in, which posed a massive problem for us. Well, I think we'll end it there with the Dark MAGA podcast. We've been streaming for a while, but let's go to the chat. I have not been going to the chat all too much. Krager says, unreal, the fraud in the government is crazy. Hard to argue as a lawyer. You don't understand these issues. Exactly. But look, Hillary Clinton did it. Now, I don't know if Hillary Clinton's a lawyer, but she was the Secretary of State. She's like, I didn't know that I wasn't allowed to have a server in my bathroom. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to communicate on private cell phone devices. And that's why not only did they use BleachBit to wipe the server and get rid of all the emails, but they also smashed their cell phones with hammers. They didn't know that they weren't supposed to do that either. That was all news to them. You also have Jeff saying, Brad, they want to spread communism around the world. That is exactly correct. Absolutely. They've been wanting to do it. It's a long game. It's Mao's game. And they've been doing it since, the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Still got to build it, Krager. Pretty sure it's going to take longer than 20 minutes to do it. Should have been building this stuff 8 years ago. Exactly correct. Karen says HC is a lawyer. Okay, well, there you go. Exactly. So she got away with it. What else we got here over at YouTube? What's going on, Steven? Oh, that karma can come and haunt you. Exactly correct. Cindy says, I can bowl. I don't think he would say that. Rob says, have a good night, Patriots. You have a good night, Rob. Appreciate you. HK, I was literally multitasking, listening to you and playing chess. Hell yeah, shout out. We're smart. HK is smart. Love that. Little Onion, you guys are still here. Of course we're still here. We're not going anywhere. We always hang out. George is in the house. Trump is like a living cartoon, a really funny one. Trump is great. Trump is freaking hilarious, man. He gets me all riled up. He gets me going. Well, we'll be back here tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for another episode of The Bald Brad Show. Would love for you to join us. Thanks for hanging out on this Dark MAGA. Again, we'll see what tomorrow looks like. Most likely Thursday morning, or at some point Thursday, will be the last episode I do before I go on a week and a half long vacation. So I come back the 26th. So we won't have a show till the 28th. So after Thursday, I won't have a show till April 28th. It's the longest we've ever gone offline here on the Bald Brad Show. But I hope you guys enjoy what you've seen so far. If you have and you feel like we deserve your subscription, it's absolutely free. Hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. We go live each and every weekday morning, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And folks, I will see you tomorrow here on the Bald Brad Show. Take care, Patriots.